Hello and welcome to this episode of the Idiosyncratic Nightmare Podcast, the show where Michael Klein and myself make a portrait of a guest while we're interviewing that guest. This episode, we're talking with Daniela Astone. She's an Italian artist that I knew from my days as a student in Florence and who has matured into being an absolutely phenomenal, imaginative artist who, in my opinion, is really pushing representation beyond the goal of just making stuff look like stuff into a phase where I think that she's really channeling her intuition and engaging with symbolism and, in short, making paintings that really matter. In this episode, Daniela is going to share her thoughts on creative ideation, on what matters to her about painting, and how she stays motivated to do it. So, with all that being said, let's jump into the show and our conversation with Daniela Astone. Having watched your work for as long as I have, even from when you're a student, there's been a pretty, I would say, maybe you can correct me also. I would say there's been a rather kind of dramatic shift in the focus of your work, maybe in the last maybe 5 years. I want to say maybe that's a inaccurate timeline, but I'm just curious if you have anything that you say in that time period has gone on, or if there was a shift for you in terms of inspiration, like where you are looking when you're making your work.
No, you're right. I think that it was the crisis of the 40s, You pass through that that door.
Yeah,
and and you realize that the time that you have is not unlimited.
yeah.
That's fascinating.
And
Yeah.
so and
I won't ask how old you are, Daniela, but yeah, Steve and I are in the thick of it, I suppose.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, it's crazy.
No, but I think this
so
is
like
why I ask about it, because I was so impressed by this uh, term, by like, and I think maybe you're always somebody who has like quite embraced. It doesn't seem like you do things halfway. It seems like you kind of go quite full on at it. And as your work entered this phase of maybe looking more into symbolic means rather than maybe being so literal, that you have gone like full on into it. I'd love to hear your thoughts also just about kind of like symbology in your work, not necessarily to describe what this symbology is, but obviously it must be a theme you're thinking about a lot.
yeah, let's say that you know I spent more than 20 years in studying and getting involved with the school, and it was beautiful. I was teaching. It was very unique time of my life, and I was going deep into understanding how to teach better, how to bring a message better. And so like you go deep into like a topic, which is the technique,
Mm.
and it is beautiful the more you go into it and the more you have to discover. And so like you realize that there's so much to learn about um, anatomy, light, portrait outdoor, portrait indoor, flat light, light,
Mm.
in a, painting in all different. I never tried to do an interview and at the same time drawing, though. By the
I
way,
don't recommend it. I don't think it's a
that's
fantastic
the
idea.
next challenge.
Yeah.
It's the next challenge. But so like technique is so interesting. But in a way, I felt at one point that I was feeling very trapped by that, and I said,
Mm.
"Ooh, if I don't give myself the time to explore and to start the journey that is more about what you have inside." Like so like that it was the thing. Like I've always in my still lives, in my portrait, I've always obviously put it like my sensibility and my life, and but
Mm.
at the same time, I felt that it wasn't enough at one point. It's just like a moment. So I moved to. I actually the thing that in a way gave me a little bit the I don't know if you can say that, the push, to go in
Yeah.
that direction. It was actually getting to know this group of Italian artists that they are here in Italy, that they also do representative art, but they do a representative art that is a little bit more, symbolic and.
Mm.
So, like, this group of artists that are, Roberto Ferri, Alessandro Bianchi, which is sea children, and then Adriano Fida, that now is not longer with us, but and other, artists like, Italian artists that were doing the representative, but with completely different um, themes. It kind of pushed me in that direction, just because I was having so many crazy dreams that were perfect in a way. Like, the visions were so cool, and I really wanted to find a way to represent them, and they, in a way, they gave me the key. There is that way of saying, no, that you find the teacher when you're ready to listen the lesson, no?
Mm.
Mm.
And so, like, I think I found them in the moment that I was ready for the shift, for the change.
Yeah.
So I have to say that thanks to these people that I, in a way, took a different path, even if it was quite painful and scary. I have to say, I had, for a long time, mm, you know, panic attacks, fears. I didn't know how to kind of leave the school and embrace this new path. It was very hard for me to abandon a secure
Mm.
path, a secure job, and get into the wild a little bit.
Yeah. So how is
And I'm
that
still
transition?
scared.
Yeah.
Sorry.
How is? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Michael. Do you have a question?
No, no, I was listening.
Well, what I wanted to ask was, how did you kind of manage that transition? Because, like, I also, again, I just watch from a bit of a distance, on Instagram, and that, to see what you're up to. But when you left the academy, then you started to really push. It seemed to me, into your career as, like, a professional artist rather than as a teacher, and, like, kind of changing that identity a bit. And I'd love to hear, like, how pressurized that felt, because, of course, then, the priority on the work that you make in some ways also changes, because it becomes a thing that you are is at the forefront of that security that you were talking about.
Yeah, no, like, the transition is still going on. I'm still
Mm.
in the full transition of, like, trying to understand how to manage that, and like, the things that I have to do in order to become a professional
Mm.
artist, because yet I don't think I fully am.
Hmm.
So yeah.
So you,
But what did you encounter? Like, could you give me an example of, like, something you feel that you are, because, to me, by the way, I think the work looks incredible. Every time I see something in your studio, I think, fuck, I need to, like, run back to my studio and work more, because obviously you're doing, it seems like, everything. But what is it you
Steve,
feel is the
do,
what?
do you remember do you remember the portrait that you did with the fishes at one
With
of
fish?
the yeah, like, there was I think it was a self-portrait that you did with the
Yeah,
fishes with
yeah,
the
it was. Yeah, I remember that one. It was,
I think
actually, as Repin's Sadko, like, his painting, but it was me instead.
yeah, but I think it was like one of the first time I saw a student of the Florence Academy doing something slightly more surreal. someone that left the academy, okay, but you were inside the academy, and you did that, and I said, fuck, this guy is gonna go in the right direction.
That's interesting to say, because lately I've been realizing, at least this is my experience of it, that I have to hold on to my stupidest ideas. When I think of a project, when I think of a painting, obviously I'm drawn to it for a reason. But my next thought is usually, oh my God, everybody will hate this. Or, oh my God, this is the stupidest thing ever. And there are these instances, though, where you follow it. Like in the case of this painting, me with fish. I'm a teacher at the academy. What's happening here? Like, it's an underwater self-portrait. It's the stupidest thing ever. And I think that people generally responded to it in that way. Like, I think people generally in the academy looked at it and thought, this fucking guy, why don't you just do a portrait of a guy in a chair instead? And then there are the few people that come back to you like this and say, oh my God, like maybe you were onto something. And I guess it's just a lesson that I've reflected on, that the only difference between a stupid idea and a great idea is, like, if you believe in it and you follow through. Like, that's the difference, because all ideas start in a place that is, I think, generally, like, it doesn't sound interesting if I just tell you it's a self-portrait, but I'm underwater and there's a fish. That sounds dumb. But if you believe in it and you manifest it, you decide whether it's meaningful, And I see that all over the place.
Even, is it on your website? Where would I find that?
Oh God, no. That painting is hidden in a deep cavern somewhere.
Oh shoot.
Yeah, maybe I can dig it up. It was actually in some ways very meaningful, because I painted that the first time that I visited Norway with Cornelia. We were working in this small studio out the back of her grandmother's house, and she was making a painting, and I was making that one. And so it's kind of it's quite a special painting to me. I didn't know that anybody else, honestly, even remembered it. But yeah, maybe I'll bring it up when we.
I'll tell you one thing. That painting, for my opinion, it was the best painting of that show. And you know why? No, I'll tell you. I'm serious. Because, maybe you painted and you had your own reason why you painted that in your head. But of course, a painting has its own life. Okay. And I think it is not necessarily a positive thing, the fact that you talking about your ideas like stupid or great. You should change your vocabulary. Definitely, for my opinion. Just because in this way you're putting yourself in a position of judging. I'll tell you that when I first saw that painting, I thought this thing. I said, fuck, this painting is a portrait of this situation here. We were in Florence into a bubble with a very predestinate kind of future, because the way the academy was teaching us, it was kind of very heavy and on our aesthetic. And I think that you got that on the painting. It was like we all were into a sort of a fishbowl, and so honestly, that was my interpretation. I say, and I thought that was very meaningful, and it was actually a kind of a revolutionary painting. And I felt that a lot of reactions were like, "Ooh, what is that?" And I was like, that is how a painting should do. Like, people should be a little bit, a little shocked or.
What year was that?
This was back in 2005 or 6 or something.
Okay.
And but Daniela, I couldn't agree with you more that I want to be surprised at what someone has seen, and what someone has made me see, not that of course people make the artwork that you want. If you want to be unsurprising, I don't begrudge you that. But I know the artists that like blow my mind. I'm constantly puzzled. Where on earth did they come from with that vision? I think someone, Rupert von Kaufmann, I think is like this. I think in a lot of ways that you are like this, Daniela. But I love that the shift for you came along with a crisis. That idea that no, no, because we
all the changes comes after a crisis.
no, it does, because
Usually.
we don't want to change. We don't want, we will not volunteer to change things, people, I think. Like if we can avoid it, we will tend to try to stay where we are. But a moment of crisis can force you to move in a direction you did not previously anticipate. And probably it's not fun for you to talk about the whole time, but I would love to hear any stories of that crisis and the change that you experience.
If you want, you can interview my husband. Like he's very expert of all my crises.
Yeah.
No, but uh, like uh, going back about like the idea of what you think, like sometimes representative art can be um, a bit too much reassuring in the sense that it doesn't give you, like it gives you some security. Like sometimes when I paint landscape especially, I look at it and I feel like, this sort of idea of perspective and dynamic lines kind of all going towards one direction, like
Mm,
in the pivot point, yeah, over there in the horizon, no?
mhm,
Like, and I think that this unconsciously gives us a lot of sense of security, and
mm,
so I think people research that. People wants to be reassured, and the people wants also to see the infinite beauty that you can offer through like the technique and the painting and the handling of all these things.
mhm,
I don't know, though, that is on the point of view of who look at this work. But I
mhm,
think that for us, that we are human beings and we change all the time, even if we don't want to.
mm,
We are human beings that are kind of sensitive, and at least for me, if I have to think of painting, the same things over, for me it's kind of hard. It's kind of art, and so like I have to try different topics, and
mm,
I fail constantly. Like I'm such a bad planner. I don't do sketches. I just go direct on my canvas, and most of the time I make huge amount of mistakes on the canvas, and so like I basically have sometimes to repaint it over, and I consume a huge amount of time, if because I'm very disorganized and
mm,
impulsive.
mm,
So, but like I know that this is our work, because as you say, like you have always inside of you a voice that says, "Ah, this is a stupid idea," or
mm,
like there is someone always that is you. We are so vulnerable and constantly naked
mm,
that, of course, as soon as we try to speak and bring out something that we don't even know what is the meaning of it, because this is
mhm,
how it works. Like the unconscious talks about talks through images, and images, if we want to talk about images, we need words. Words are
mm,
very different than images. An image can come out, and people can give different meanings to it. Like people might like it, people might not like it. People might actually really empathize with them, and get caught and get emotional in front of them, but not all of them. It's not
mm,
like, I don't think that everyone reacts in the same way in front of a portrait of Velázquez.
Mm.
I was shocked, but other people might not be shocked. They may look at it and just pass away, and keep walking.
Yeah.
So I think this is the thing. The words are a way of communicating, and paintings are a different way of communicating. And I think that at one point I just have to stop, or I'm still trying to stop thinking of what other people might like or not like. But basically, I decided that I will try to do whatever passed through my mind.
Yeah.
That's it. Not
Yeah.
compromises.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when people ask me, but what did you meant? What you meant about? I don't know.
Yeah. This is the worst question,
I
actually.
don't know.
It's actually the
Huh?
worst question. No, I mean,
It is
I
the
genuinely
worst
think,
question.
because what we're trying to do is establish this phenomenon wherein you can know the meaning, and once you know it, you can leave. It's uncomfortable to remain in a space of uncertainty, right? To not know what the painting means, to look at an image and contemplate it, and be lost, kind of, and to only have these unconscious symbols to guide you, right? So what does the mind do? We say, what does it mean? And then the artist is put in this horrible position where we have to say, oh well, I was like in a fishbowl. It doesn't that means nothing to what the painting is saying. The best saying, I think, surrounding this is, and I wish I remembered. I always remember quotes, and I never remember the person who said it. But the quote is great, and it is that if it if I could have written it, I wouldn't have painted it. This is the idea.
But there is some artists that are very well organized, and
Yeah.
especially I think the conceptual artists, they do a lot of
Yeah.
research on a
Mm.
certain topic. They
Yeah.
do many, many different sketches. They kind of try things out. They start from the theme. They study all the aspects of the theme, and then
Mm.
they produce something that makes sense to them, that connects them with the theme. Okay.
Mm.
My process is completely the opposite.
Mm.
Okay. So, um, and I actually realized that I was better, I was functioning better in giving meanings to my paintings without knowing. Okay, I'm
Mm.
going to explain that. So,
Yeah.
do you know when you have to set up a still life
Mm-hmm.
and you have a bunch of objects?
Mm.
Objects, they have their secret meanings, the secret life to them, right? And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes they can feel and represent like human beings or parts of uh, a universe in a
Mm-hmm.
way, no? So
Yeah.
you put on stage all these objects,
Mm.
bigger objects, smaller objects, aged objects, pretty new objects, alive, death, and you have all these uh, differences in
Mm-hmm.
the surface, in the textures, in the colors, and you put it up there in a way, kind of casually, and then you paint it, and then at
Mm.
one point you realize that composition was actually framing perfectly what you were passing through during that time.
Yeah.
I don't know if that happened to you, but it happened to me many times.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well, I think it can happen to you if you're watching. I think you have to be tuned in to see that. Or rather,
I don't
let's
know,
say,
like,
if you see it after the fact, you have then tuned in. But please, you go ahead. I don't want to interrupt what you're saying, actually, with my half good version of what you're talking about.
no, I just realized that if I was trying to think about a theme, and study the thing, maybe I was coming up with a very conventional and literal answer to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want it to have that in my paintings. I didn't want the painting to look literal.
Yeah.
Okay. So like I tried different ways, and for me the best way it was actually to let it out first, put out all the things that I have inside, and afterwards giving the meaning to it.
Mm.
And so basically I give to my unconscious the power
Mm-hmm.
to decide.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's
Yeah, that's
fantastic.
fascinating. So
And I know
does
that
that
this is
evolve
quite
during the process of the painting then? You start with this kind of idea of some feelings, thoughts, and then as it starts to kind of take shape and you respond to the work, do you kind of pivot, or is it usually kind of predetermined early on?
no, I have no determination at
Mm,
all.
yeah.
Like I'm very disorganized.
Mm,
Probably in 10 years my paintings will look like futurist. How many times I've changed the position of the arms
mhm, mhm.
and the legs, So
So it's
no,
with
like
everything. It's not just a technical thing. It's with the idea as well. The whole concept can shift. So you're letting the painting kind of, you start with maybe, a subconscious thought of this concept, and then it
exactly.
just,
And then I react to it,
yeah.
and I take decisions while I go.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it is very fun, it's a lot of fun actually, because at
Mm.
that point I'm creating. Like there is not the reality out there. There is not the model that rules,
Mhm.
like, but it's me. It's just I decide where,
Yeah.
what kind of light that has the model, what kind of color will have the background. I decide everything, and I don't care if it looks, you know, not realistic enough at this point.
Mm.
Uh, because also I realized that maybe having too much of pushing too much on the ability of rendering something realistic, it goes against the narrative. Sometimes that is kind of surreal. So like I still that's why I think that I'm not totally I will never be totally kind of formed as an artist, because I'm still trying to understand how to let certain things go, how
Mm.
to feel free in the process, and and uh, and and use all the abilities that I've studied, all the things that I've studied, use them in a different way, or for the sake of the painting. So I'm like, I feel like that sometimes in the past, when I was drawing and painting, I needed to be good, and the feeling was like at the end of a painting, oh wow, Daniela, you ended up to do a good job with this portrait, or oh Daniela, you have ended up to do a good job with this landscape.
Mm.
Okay.
Mm.
But now, like now, I don't think at the bravura.
Mm.
Okay,
Yeah.
my challenge is to keep the things together, because basically I don't have the outside world helping me. I have everything in my head, so it's a
Yeah.
very kind of different, yeah, point of view.
Is part of that like literal, like really, like you don't have as much actual tangible reference that you're painting from, that it's all imagination, or is it more that the full realization of the painting will never exist in the real world and you need to conjure it?
This one, like, of course I have references, Of course, I have references. Of
Oh,
course, I need, anyway, models, because I still paint figures, and I mean, even if they're in a sort of suspended world, floating, but I still need them. Of course, I don't think I want to abandon that language, but neither I want to give to it the full power on me. So I just
yes.
want to have the power on the painting. By the way, I'm
Yeah.
talking to you guys that you both of you are masters for me. I was like, I've been looking at your drawings and paintings for like forever, and I still do. And and I think that one of the biggest thing that made me to realize is that there are people that, like you guys, you can do things that are like so beautiful, like in terms of technique also, but like you have your own language with your things. And I felt that I never mastered it fully, so I
Wow.
always say
Wow.
I always say, honestly, I would say, okay, I'm for all my life, I was looking to other painters and say, oh, look how good this painter is. And I will never be as good as this. And now I kind of say, okay, Daniela, give up. You
Mm.
studied for 20 years. You arrived where you arrived. Enough, enough
Yeah.
studying. Now it's time to change direction, and I will do it with my limits, basically.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
embracing my limits.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you can't be everything to everybody all the time, can you? And it's a very poor yardstick to measure ourselves by. The strengths of other people versus our own weaknesses. We all do it, but then, like, I think the thing you expressed at the end, like that you go along with your weaknesses. I think that in some way this is like this is ultimately an enormous part of your signature. Your style, such as it is, whatever you develop, whatever you make, it will be a combination, right, of the things that you're great at and the things that you're compensating for. So to learn not to feel guilt about them, I think that's the step you take before you start probably making really your own proper work, is that you have to live with those limitations, maybe even to love them, because they're so much a part of you.
Exactly, exactly. They become part of you, and they become, if you can embrace them and recognize them, they can become like the part of your style. So why
Yeah.
not? I mean, why not?
There was this
But as
there
I
was this
said,
music. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
so no, I just wanted to say that I still feel like I'm working like on myself and on my things, and so like I feel pretty young as this new Daniela just kind of born, and I'm actually uh finding a lot of difficulties in a way also of understand how to approach to galleries and the art world that in a way is different that what
Mm,
I used to know.
Mm.
And so I need to kind of understand, like I need to be a little bit more kind of open-minded and start to kind of research more about like how to um, find people that are interested in creating a cultural exchange more than just like selling the
mm,
painting itself. So I need to kind of still I'm looking for. I
yeah.
have a lot of lots of different galleries around um, Europe and in the States, but like I have to say that still have to find the right environment, so yeah, it's kind of hard, especially because I'm constantly changing, and so it's kind of hard to find.
Yeah, I feel like
So
there is
I
this
know
way that
that
you
I'm
can. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
now go ahead.
I was just going to say, I feel like there is these different criteria that we strike, whereas it's quite possible to be an artist and work with galleries, and it's quite possible to be an artist and make artwork that you feel is truly a part of your growth and your change and your experience. Um, but then it's very difficult to be an artist who's being true to your growth and your change and your experience and work with galleries successfully. Like by adding that extra criteria, we create like a very difficult challenge to come to. But I do think that probably everybody, literally everybody doing it, probably experiences just about the same thing. That as soon as you feel like you hit a thing that satisfies other people, you're ready to change to another thing that satisfies you, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. It's a very
No,
funny prediction. It's very human.
but I think that it is possible if you find also people that can help you in kind of creating a narrative around you. They're supposed to be the curators, supposed to be, the people that in a way supports you, and so like
Mm,
I think that like what I'm trying to do is create like this friendship with all these kind of people, and try to kind of understand if through our relationship maybe something new can begin. And so like let's see how it goes. For me it's a total adventure, and
mhm.
and I don't know what to expect, but so let's see.
Yeah. But so could I also ask? I mean, maybe it's difficult to articulate, maybe to exactly, but like where would you say right now your if you were making an album, like a musical album, right? What would the theme of it be? And I ask it in this way because I'm trying to ask you where your thread of sort of creative consciousness is, without asking you to tell me, "Oh, I like birds."
Probably I will call it the metamorphosis of birds.
Mm, yeah.
Actually, there is a a documentary movie called like this. It's from a Portuguese director, and she's very young, and I love it. Anyway, I think that the metamorphosis probably will be the um, the title.
Okay. Are you starting out then with like Kafka and like is there a lot of literary inspiration? No, I'm just curious.
Um, no, actually, no, I'm not reading like all those like different kind of, with Kafka. I tried, but like I get depressed very easily. So so no.
Mm,
But okay, first of all, I tried. Uh, if you want to know the process, basically, the first year I tried every day to write down all my dreams, and this is a process, a Jungian process. Like you
mhm,
have to write down everything, and then I moved also in writing down also all different sort of fantasies and ideas that were coming up to my mind with total no reason, but just like write them
yeah.
down. So I did that for. So I don't have sketchbooks with me, but I have books, books like these where I write basically all these,
Yeah.
ideas and fantasies. And so I was following Jung for and I was reading Jung for a long time, and I tried to apply also this forcing my imagination and so on. And then I actually started to change towards, a more kind of spiritual reading, and so I'm reading Ospitek, and like I'm reading Ouspensky and Gurdjieff and Rumi. I'm reading all these other things that are, more kind of spiritual and cryptic, and
Yeah.
but so like are philosophers that are Sufi. I don't know if you know about Sufi. Anyway,
No,
like
but I
I don't
want
want to
to.
get into it, but anyway,
Okay.
like is very kind of spiritual, but at the same time is like watching you constantly, observing yourself and
Mm,
realizing what you're doing and what you're trying to be more aware, basically,
mhm,
and that helps. But yeah, it's like also as people do meditation and other things. I don't do meditations, but like I try to constantly pay attention to what my crazy brain is producing.
mm. I think that's fascinating. Yeah.
Daniela, I have a question. So,
Yes.
have you completely kind of, I don't want to say abandoned, but have you let go of painting outdoors? Is it mainly studio painting, or do you take this imagination and also paint outdoors, but paint kind of interesting, like you could paint imaginative things? I've seen, they're darker and kind of tonal, uh, it seems. Have you done any outdoor kind of?
No, I've done, of course, I keep painting outdoor, I keep painting, doing sketches and painting from life. It's not that I've completely abandoned, because it's,
Okay,
of course, it's I always need to sometimes, because even if I say that I don't want to study, but I always want to get better, so like I keep doing it. But like I have to say that I found a different kind of balance. If before it was fully that, now like is the 90% of my painting are done in
sure.
studio.
Mm.
And it's funny because I just wanted to show you this painting that I have in this room.
Yeah, come
That
on.
is
Let's go
it
full
is
screen there.
it is funny. Okay, so I discovered that I wanted to become like a painter, but actually a painter when I was 17. Because
Mm,
before I didn't know exactly what to do. At 17, I wanted to have a studio space, but of course I couldn't paint in my home, in my house, in the house of my parents.
mm,
And so in this little town of Orbetello that is right next here, there is this we call it biblioteca, where you go and you get a book, no? Where, what do you call it?
mm,
Like a library. So basically, this library, nobody used it. It was in a beautiful monastery, many beautiful big rooms, and nobody was going there to study. Okay, it was basically almost abandoned. There was the guy that was working there, and so I went there and I say, "Listen, you have all this space. Can I come here to paint?" And the guy
mm.
say, "Yeah, why not?" I mean, at the end, I'm just lonely all the time. So basically, I moved into this space. I
Wow.
put I brought all my easel and everything there, and I did I did this painting. I was 17, but actually, if you look at it, I don't know if you can see it.
Oh, wait, let me.
Can you
Yeah,
see it?
yeah,
It's like a tree,
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like a tree with a dark blue background.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
So
That's
so
like, yeah,
basically,
that's like some of your new stuff.
Yeah, isn't it?
That's great. That's super cool.
so I like this lady, I met this lady that she was an Antigone student,
Mm.
casually like this, randomly, and she said, Daniela, I think if you want to start with just three colors. I was like 3 colors, and she says, yeah, get a limited palette, and I chose the white, of course, like
Hmm.
the raw amber. Can you
Mm.
imagine?
Yeah.
And ultramarine blue. Okay, these
Okay.
three, and I painted this
That's
tree
brilliant.
that it was like actually a National Geographic photo, you know?
Yeah.
And I blew it up, and I painted it with these 3 colors when I was 17. So I think it was the destiny for me to end up at the Florence Academy with all these rules of limited palette and you know limitations. But it's funny that now basically I'm using a similar palette. I'm going back to it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's really cool.
it's
Yeah. Now,
it's, it's
Michael.
funny because
Michael
no,
brought
go
up
ahead.
something that I think is kind of I think is maybe more significant than we usually give credit for. But so this painting that you made when you were 17, um, it's this sort of like central theme, the central subject, and this sort of light effect and design and simplicity, and almost has quite an iconic sense. I believe that there's probably a dozen of your paintings in the last few years that I've seen that incorporate like that same theme of picture. I wonder, like for us artists, so often our path is that we like run as far as we can away from ourselves to discover the world, and then as we mature, we kind of come back actually so much to the things that we loved when we were kids. To say 17, I'm 44 now. 17 seems like a kid, but I wonder, like, also, I wonder if that also is like a conscious thing, like that you feel that, or that we're unearthing something that maybe you didn't wasn't obvious to you.
No, it wasn't like I think you're perfectly right. I think that you go away, you run away, you just try to be different, like you push yourself towards your limits. You
Mm,
you get to and then you probably you go back to what are the things that are important for you, and and maybe at the end I haven't changed that much,
mm.
Was this an
and
image
maybe
that
I
was like, are you thinking of it now just because you're in the room of your parents, or was this like, is it just making a click now, or is this something that you like were like, you knew was kind of, you were returning back to the.
no, I don't think that I knew that, like actually I just realized it because they kept this painting, as well, so they kept
That's
other few
brilliant.
paintings of things that I've done in the past.
I love
And
that.
so I didn't realize. I realized this summer that I was looking at it. I said, "Shit! Actually, this background looks exactly what I'm doing now."
Mm.
That's awesome.
So, like, it's funny. And another thing that I've done, I remember going back to the clowns, like, like once after this painting, I painted myself a self-portrait as a clown,
Mm.
and
Okay.
I had all so many hands kind of on my back, kind of
Okay.
holding my back, like
Yeah.
pulling me back. And so I had all
Yeah.
these hands pulling me back, and I was dressed like a clown.
All
So
right.
just to say,
Shall we
just to say,
psychoanalyze this? Shall we really get into it?
now I'm going with all these hands, and it's like, oh.
Yeah.
I was interested in ants also back then, so at the
But
end,
so,
I think
speaking
that
of,
uh,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I say that probably there are symbols or archetypical images that are particularly, in our DNA. Like probably they are kind of locked in our history, and they come back.
Mm-hmm.
So they come back, and so probably they need to come out. And I think that the our history is not just the history of one person. It's just the history of all the cells that compose our body, and they have all the history of the world. And so I like to think that in my head that there is the memory of a part of my cell that it changed and evolved, but at the beginning it was just a rock, or maybe it was just like I don't know, water, or a plant, or a little animal. And so, like, at the end, if I'm here and in my head, like, there are always certain images about the thread, the nest, the hands, all these topics, they keep coming back to me because this seems very specifically kind of meaningful. That means that I have to put them out there.
Hmm,
Yeah.
that's
I
cool.
think, Daniela, that encapsulates perfectly why I wanted to have you on this show, because I think that um, eventually in art making, and it's very easy to hide from this in representation, I feel, but I think eventually in art making, like I think you really have to get in touch a lot with your feelings, more so than your rational processing. I mean, just this is not an interview about me, but just speaking about what I went through. Is I had a very difficult time kind of separating my rational response to artwork from my like emotional response. Also, even by the way, categorizing these as two separate things when in fact they're kind of two different versions of the same thing. Um, it kind of felt like or in retrospect, it feels like a bit like a handicap. But that ability to like embrace your kind of inner emotional world and have put that in contact with an exterior tangible world, to see these nests not as like just a thing that a bird lives in, but like a symbol for something, and let yourself kind of without judgment kind of go through that world and embrace these different symbols and express them. I think it's such a powerful part of your artwork. Now this is turned into the worst version of an interview where I just tell you why I think you're very cool, but uh, perhaps we can get back on track and say, if we go even further back, you said like at 17, you were kind of researching and looking for a place to study and paint. What were maybe like your earliest kind of introductions to art that I think put you into the path that you eventually came onto? Like, I imagine, being an American going to Italy, I imagine that you must have lived so much more around painting and sculpture than I did. Like, we only had 7-Eleven, and the supermarket. But that's not that way.
No, because like actually the city and the town that I come from doesn't have a museum. I
Okay.
mean, I mean, of course it has churches. Okay, in the inside the church you see some art, but it's not true. I mean, like my family, for example, they were working all the time. I didn't have the time, vacation in a cultural city. As I said, I went to Florence for the first time when I was 14, and it's just 2 hours away from here.
Hmm.
Get it? It's not
Yeah.
true. I wasn't exposed to art, and that's why I was idealizing it. And so the first time I saw something like an exhibition of a random artist here in the town, I was like, oh, wow. look at this guy, So it's not true. Not all the Italians have this connection, but of course, we have probably the system of schools here. They, of course, you learned Italian history and also the art history very earlier
Mm.
on, and so that's why probably you get you get these. But can I answer? Can I tell you something about what you said before about you separating the irrational and the rational thing?
Mm.
I
Mhm.
think that you know I think this is a very cultural. It's a cultural thing. It's not our thing. It's
Mm.
not your thing. It's a cultural thing, and it comes from Plato and Aristotle and the Greek, when they actually started to categorize the world, when they say
Mhm.
this is or is not. And
Mm.
so is one thing or is, so is bad or good.
Yeah.
But before, for for years and years before that, there were the paganism, and there was this kind of world where everyone was thinking and looking at nature and making up stories about how the world was functioning, and then there
Mm.
was like this world of fantasy, and also all the different gods. They didn't even had a moral. Like
Yeah.
they were gods. They weren't good or bad. They were just gods, and so you had to respect them all. And I feel that I think parts of our major problems nowadays in accepting ourselves, it is actually in not accepting the multitude that is inside of us. That we are
Mm.
not just like rational and or irrational. We are much more than that,
Mm.
and we should respect all the different parts of ourselves. So through that we can actually gain a lot of richness if we respect all our sides, all the different Danielas now that is inside me, and the
Mm.
different Steve Bauman that is inside you. It's not just
Mm.
someone rational or rational. There's much more, and I feel like that it is beautiful and also very strong when you can reconnect with that sort of multitude, and
Yeah.
so without judging, without saying this is or this is not. Also because if you think, in order to be able to express a concept, or to arrive to a point where you can touch and you can actually be able to to create like an emotion, to give an emotion to someone else. You cannot, you don't have to be scientific and rational. If you are
Mm.
rational and you expose a story as it is, people don't get it. You know that
Mm.
like uh, movies and
Mhm.
storytelling, they all realize that they have to create a connection that is emotional first of all,
Mm.
for you to kind of embrace and accept a different aspect of a topic.
Yeah.
So I think that is also the going back to what is literal, and why it is in a way bad now, that if you do literal things, because then you probably you don't connect with that aspect that needs a lie to give you the opportunity to understand deeply the truth of it.
Mm. Mhm.
My ability of explaining these topics are at the limit. I'm sorry.
No, the truth
My
is that
English,
Italians speaking
like
English
this
get
is
away with
challenging
any
for
kind of
me.
explanation they want. because it sounds fantastic to American ears. This accent, like speaking in like this complicated language. It's perfect, really. This is why,
I
Simona
apologize.
Dolce, who we both know very well. I mean, this is why, I listen to her for hours and hours and hours, just trying to decipher it. It sounds so symbolic the way that she speaks with the way that she uses English. I think it's only a good thing for you, Daniela.
Okay.
Yeah. By the way,
But
can
anyway,
I want to pivot really quick, or briefly at least, onto another thing that I thought was very interesting, because you live, I guess, up in the hills, one of the hills around Florence. Is that right?
yeah,
And you're running these landscape painting workshops up from your home, yeah?
exactly. Yeah. Now,
Well,
like,
could you just like tell me about it? Also, because I want to go to one. But just tell me what is the routine like? What
oh,
what
come
what
on,
happens?
you guys, both of you, you can come anytime. Michael knows like the
Yeah, it's
place. You
beautiful.
guys can come. You just come.
Hmm.
Actually, I feel a little bit lonely up there lately, so I don't know if I will stay there forever. I'm actually planning to move, but the place is beautiful and it is perfect for landscape painting because basically is up on the hill and you can see like the sunrise, the sunset, and all the hills are perfect to study the atmospheric perspective, and it's very beautiful and reassuring and very nice. A lot of people that comes to my house and paint from my house, they sells the paintings like this.
Hmm. They
Yeah, I'm
pay
not
for the
surprised.
paper.
These cypresses as well, right?
Yeah, of course, and olive trees and vineyards and old houses made of stones, and it's like the Tuscany villa stereotype. And there
Yeah,
is no swimming pool, so it doesn't kind of like it's more romantic because there is not swimming pool. So
yeah. I kind of want to like veer back towards kind of creative ideas and things, um, mostly because I feel like there's this very fascinating place for artists as you get maybe when you get over the part of your career where you are so concerned with how good you are at things. There was a film director I heard talking about this, in which he described a phase in his life, or a phase in movie making, that was what he called prosaic, and he compared that to then a more poetic vision, where in his mind, in movie making, a prosaic film is all about the plot and all about just the characters, whereas the more poetic vision of filmmaking involved more, I think, more symbology, but also the style of the film itself became a part of the language. So, if I can ask, it's not a good question, but I would love to ask it anyway. Um, I have always noticed that you have seemingly a very clear way of how things get done. When you're producing a painting, it seems to be a consistent visual language, and it seems to have been that way ever since I've known you. Would you say that's conscious? And if it's not conscious, can you say something about it?
oh, actually, I thought that I was honestly, when I was looking at my paintings, and still when I do look at my paintings, I feel like I'm not consistent enough. Like
Interesting.
when I look at my paintings, it feels to me that I do too many things. There is people that do just one thing, and they're
Mhm.
quite consistent in that. But I do so many. I'm so curious. I do the painting outdoor, the still life, and the landscape, and the figures, and sometimes for many years actually I thought that my paintings weren't consistent enough, and wasn't there,
Yeah.
there was not this unique vision that you're talking about. I'm actually surprised that
Yeah.
you're saying that, because like when I was showing my work to more contemporary kind of viewers, let's say, they were always saying that, of course, in the contemporary world, they kind of do one thing, or they repeat it, or they change, they have a similar way of approaching. And and they were always telling me that my kind of stuff, it wasn't uh, you know similar enough. It seems
Oh,
kind of
interesting.
painted by different people. And at one point I said to myself, yeah, fuck, that's probably true, but I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't want to, give up, like, my curiosity of, you know doing whatever I want in exchange of what, like a brand, or like
Yeah.
I mean, of course, like, getting into the work of a person is more complicated than a brand. I don't know if I will be able to use the same material or the same color over and over. If I do it, okay, at the end of the day, what it matters is that you're honest with yourself, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so, like, at this point, I just want to be, I want to go in that direction. I want to try to get off from me all the previous conditioning that I still have
Mhm.
about how good I am, or like, oh, but maybe this is better for the market, or maybe it's better for this gallery. I'm trying to to do something in such a way that I will, allow myself to get rid of all this conditioning and try to be as free as possible, even if, of course, in this world it's not easy. So I'm actually open up to new challenges, and so I'm happy to, for example, to work on a theme. So now I have these ideas of the threads and the heads coming from hands coming out of these clouds, and I'm into
Mhm.
it. After maybe 5 paintings, I will be done with it. And next month,
Yeah.
I'm planning to paint 40 flying rocks. This
Mm.
is my next project. I'm gonna make all these rocks to fly.
Yeah.
And then the
Yeah.
next project
Oh,
will
that's
be
fantastic.
to make but this is in this way, like, okay, I have an idea, like, and I'm going to do, like, for example, a series, but it's not that I'm consciously uh, putting together the themes, or like the paintings in a very harmonious way. I haven't thought that someone would have thought of me, that of my work, that, honestly.
Mm.
And so I'm quite surprised, but yeah. So
I have two
this
follow-up
is
questions.
it.
I have two follow-up questions. The first follow-up question is, these artists that we suppose are out there who are perfectly consistent, do you think that they are in their studios looking at themselves, seeing themselves as inconsistent, and looking at other artists and thinking, oh, they must be so consistent?
I don't know what they think. At this
All right, Michael,
point,
let's
I
take a
don't know
survey.
nothing.
There's three artists in this room right now. I think my work is wildly inconsistent. Daniela and Michael, I think your work is very consistent. Michael, what are your feelings?
Oh no, I think I'm all over the place.
All right, fine.
Fantastic.
Now, do you think in turn that my work and Daniela's work is consistent?
For the most part, I see a new direction in both of you. So there is new work happening. But yes, for the most part, very consistent.
Okay, all right. So we all know we are like wrong and crazy.
Yeah,
So
we
it's
have a
good. No,
very
it's fine.
distorted way of
We're all on the
seeing
same
the
page.
world.
I wonder what that is. If it's a self consciousness that's created by like a feeling that we need to be more in the market, that we need to somehow be more professional, that like just coming up with ideas and painting them doesn't seem like it's serious enough, so we feel like we need to build a seriousness into it somehow.
Yeah, maybe.
It's a fascinating
Anyway,
question. I mean, it's really, I think it's also external voices of like pressure points of real conversations that, like Daniela, if you like honestly went out and talked to a gallery and they were like straight up, they just said like it's too varied or something, then that sticks in your mind and you doubt every, not saying you, I mean, definitely me as well. Then you like second guess all these ideas where at some point in your career, it would have been like you just go with it.
Yeah.
It's you can have one voice that can do a lot of damage.
Yeah, this
yeah, but
is
I
I
think,
wanted to bring up. Oh, go ahead.
yeah. No, I just say it because like this gallery was like they were obviously very outside of this representative kind of
Mm,
world, and so they look at my things and they saw just portraits or still lifes, and they couldn't read the personality behind these things, you know. So they were just saying, no, this is too academic, basically.
mm, mm,
And we don't see a strong personality behind, because they, of course, they couldn't see, they couldn't read the my voice in those things. And so I think at the moment that I started to go towards a direction of more like doing more I wanted to, like exploring myself more, and trying to bring out this imaginary that is inside of me, then they recognized it, but before they couldn't.
mm,
So like I think that the world uh, out there, and a lot of the people that look at art, they need explanation. They need to have the brand thing. No, they need to say, yeah, this is the person who, I don't know, makes all the backgrounds blue, whatever.
mm.
Yeah.
Sure.
But of course it's not interesting for us. For us, we don't care about these things. We just want to do whatever we want.
Yeah.
And so in a way, there is a part of me that hopes to find someone that will help me to kind of um, be more visible in the art world or whatever. But on the other side, I wish to never find it, because
Mm,
because that way I will still remain in those limbo, in this kind of intermediate place now, like where things might happen or not happen.
Yeah. Yeah, there's this race when you're kind of a younger artist to try to like realize these goals or these kind of dreams that you have. And it's just interesting to hear you say maybe you'd like to not do it, because I think that very often um, those childhood or those young dreams, that when you realize them, this is going to sound really, really bad, but I don't mean it this way. But I think sometimes when you realize a dream, you actually discover the dream itself is empty. And so actually, like, it's a very depressing thing to realize a goal. The only joy, I think, is when the goal is still out of reach and you're still churning and working and finding. Um, at least that it's been that way for me, and I feel like sometimes, yeah, like I'd maybe like to never discover that place where I feel like, oh, now I am a position in the market. I am an established thing, and I now that is done. That's finished. That chapter is kind of closed. Um, but this is now turning into like a therapy session for me, so I should probably uh, switch topics. But have you ever felt that way, that you realize something, some goal that you always had, you realize it, and then you go, is that all there is?
Yeah, for sure. The first one, it was like when I was inside the Florence Academy, that it's a very competitive environment, and you try always to reach the top. No, you try always to have
Mhm.
the more powerful position, and then when you have it, you realize that you're the loneliest person ever, and that all the people around you are fake just because you have that position, and they just want to get
Mhm.
that position. And so, like, I think
Mm.
one of the reasons why probably I also left is that at one point I realized how bad it was in terms of real life, real relationship to have a power position. And
Yeah.
probably that's why I'm also scared of getting like I like imagine to be a famous artist, like
Mm.
it would be hard to kind of recognize the people that really are your friend because they are your friend, and the people that are
Sure.
there just because you're famous
Mm.
is kind of crazy. And maybe I don't know if I really want to get there, but everyone always dreams about this idea of success, right? You
Mm.
want to be, you want to reach the top all the time, and we have this tension. And I think that it is positive tension because it pushes you
Mhm.
to go in a certain direction, but not not in. I think that that is the change is when you realize that what you want is not the success in terms of um, money or how much people knows you, but you want the success in terms of that you feel that you have accomplished uh, like something in your life at least, and you say, okay, I
Mm.
tried, I've
Yeah.
handled to arrive to this point, and so I can say to myself that I'm successful because in at the end I made someone to cry in front of one of my painting. Just that is
Hmm.
enough,
Hmm.
Yeah.
you know.
That's
So,
powerful.
but it's
Yeah.
never enough. Of course, everyone wants always more and more. So if
Yeah.
one day I have one person, the next day I want two
You're
people
like, I want two
crying.
people to cry. I want three. I want a whole weeping
A,
cathedral filled
cho-
with.
a chorus of people falling down at their knees.
Yes. Ah!
Yeah, that artistic thing is insatiable. I feel, that's another thing you have to also be grateful for is that like we have this capacity to sort of not be satisfied with things. It's a blessing and a curse, and that you it drives you forward. But it's also the feeling of always being hungry as well, which is kind of its own torture.
Oh yeah, it is. And the more you go ahead, the worse it gets.
Yeah.
Probably, or you find a way to find peace with what you have. I don't know. I'm not yet there
I was
for
gonna say, when
sure.
you figure it
But
out, call me, because I don't have any peace. I don't have that. Yeah. Happiness maybe, but peace is a tough one.
no,
Yeah.
someone like there was a old lady that it was a friend of mine. This
Mm.
very rustic Italian strong woman, and I was like, "Oh, I'm so tired of all these up and downs in my feelings." And she said, enjoy all the ups and all the downs, because when you're gonna be deaf, then you're gonna be in peace, like
Hmm.
you will
Mm.
have
Hmm.
peace. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think it is, I think it is nice to live more lives, and I think it's nice to risk a little bit, not too much, but a little bit. It is nice
Hmm.
that like I have to say that every time I try to do something that I've never done before, I feel alive.
Hmm.
And so uh, the 4th of January, I will do my first performance.
Of. What will you do? Were you dancing?
So I will have a show in Pietrasanta.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know Pietrasanta. Anyway, it's like a beautiful town on the coast of Tuscany, and there is a lot of galleries and mostly for sculptures, but because of
Yeah.
course over there's Carrara, and so, but
Yeah. There's a foundry
a
there
lot
that
of
everybody uses, isn't it?
yeah. But and so like they have foundry, like there's tons of artists over there. Pietrasanta is probably one of the small town that has more galleries and artists living there than the rest of Italy. And so I got this little gallery there, and this guy is going to exhibit my paintings with the hands and the threads.
Mm.
And so I said to him, which is a very kind of open-minded guy, I said, listen, can I do right before the opening performance? And of course, I didn't know what I was talking about. You know, like I have zero experience with performance.
Okay. Oh, wait. So when you're pitching
Yeah.
this, you have no idea like what it's going to be, but you're saying, I want to do a performance.
Yeah, well, I want to do it. I never done
Yeah.
it. I want to try it. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And about like people says, Daniela, you're gonna probably gonna look stupid. I was like, okay, probably I will, but I don't give a shit. I'm gonna do it
Yeah.
anyway because I
Yeah.
want to do it. And so I collect a few other women's, and we are going to do. I cannot explain to you now how it's going to be the performance, but
No. Let it live in
but
our imagination, right? That
exactly.
we'll imagine what you do would be better. Yeah.
If it will go well, you will see some pictures.
Yeah. And if
But
not, we'll never hear about it again.
exactly.
Everyone will keep asking about it now. They'll be like,
You're
how
like,
was the
no, it
performance?
didn't happen.
But
Yeah.
I like just this idea of combining to the exhibition a performance and kind of writing it down is also like the ideas and the explanation or some
Mhm.
concept about the whole situation. It just gave me so much energy just because it's something completely new that I never done. And so it's like when I did the show at Villa Bardini, I was feeling an explosion of energy
Mm.
because I had to call all these different artists around, and they were all
Yeah.
responding very nicely. It was fantastic. I say, gosh, I'm passing through another level, of myself that I've
Mm.
never thought that I could do,
Yeah.
and that's amazing. That makes me feel alive.
Mm.
So
So the performance, that could be the next.
Yeah. Painting will
I
stop
love it.
altogether. And now it will be.
I will, I will quit painting.
Buy a
No,
van.
I will
no, but
paint with
it
my
reminds me.
body.
It's a bit of a side note, but it reminds me there was an artist, Joachim Eriksson, right? Do you remember this guy?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, he was the director in Sweden, and when Cornelia and I were working at the academy in Sweden, and he started to do digital painting, right? Like he started painting on his computer, and I remember so well because of how stupid I sound to myself in retrospect, and how narrow-minded, because we would talk about it, at lunch or over coffee or something, and I would always ask or wonder, like, oh, I wonder how this will affect your painting, like trying to bring it back to a world that I understood, instead of grasping what was actually happening. Was that he found a totally different world that he was launching off into, that had nothing to do with like traditional painting, but that is really beautiful to see when a person finds that thing. or maybe in this case that he finds a second thing because he was an absolutely brilliant painter. But for him, like that search turned into something else. And his digital painting had nothing to do with his traditional painting. Not that maybe
He's
you
still
will go
around,
now
right?
into a career of performance, but maybe so.
He's still alive, right? I mean,
No, but yeah.
Yeah, no, he's not. He's not. Did I imply that he was dead?
yeah, you said was.
Well, no, he is. No, he's great. He's been,
For
as far as I know,
you.
he's totally healthy. Yeah.
No, actually, I think that the maybe the only thing that we can think about is the fact that we can have more than one thing. You know,
Mm,
like imagine that if you could express, I mean, yourself with movies, with music, with every possible tool.
yeah.
If I was multitask and I was able to I don't know, play the guitar or
Mm,
you know, I would like to direct a movie.
Yeah.
I would like
Yeah.
to I would like to I don't know, organize like songs or write down books, whatever. I don't want to have limits.
mm,
That's the thing.
Mm,
I don't want limitations. And
mm,
that's why I feel like I need to explore other ways of expressing. Like just because I feel like I need it. I need it to feel
mm,
alive. And I
mm.
think that not necessarily will take away from my paintings, or maybe it will. I don't know. Like honestly, I don't know where this path will bring me.
mm.
But that's the exciting thing, is the
Yeah.
fact that it's like a new journey.
Yeah. I do feel like that for artists, there's an element of that where there's some core motivation in us that is about that. There's always this there's always a story that I tell. Actually, every time I've told the story, I always like get a little bit choked up, probably almost cry a little bit. So I'll try it here, but I think I'm emotionally neutral enough right now that I'll be able to tell the story without anything. But do you know the singer Frankie Valli from Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons?
I don't.
No.
It's not gonna
Everybody
work.
else who's listening
So,
to this
Everybody
does
else
know
in the
them.
world.
So, but he's
okay.
from he's that era of like American kind of harmonic like groups where it's a group of like four guys and they're singing in different harmonies. I think you might even call it like a doo-wop era. Uh, in any event, so it's these all of there was this moment in history in America wherein all these groups were like popping up in small towns. Everybody who got together with their friends who had an enthusiasm for singing, they would get together in these groups of like three or four people and they would practice their harmonies and make songs. It's a beautiful era in music in America. And so Frankie Valli had this incredible voice and went on to become incredibly famous, a huge star in his field. And he was being interviewed for his introduction to or induction into the Hall of Fame of music. And they said, "Oh, Frankie, what was the best part of your career? Was it when you sold 1 million records, or was it when you
Mm.
got a Grammy award for the best song of the year?" Or listing off this long sort of group of accomplishments, professional marks that he achieved, and he said, "Oh, it's nothing to do with that. Like the best part of my career, this is the part where I always get choked up. The best part of my career was when it was just me and these three other guys, and we were under the street light on the corner, just young and singing. It happened. It happened. So,
That's nice.
but no, it does. But it's that it speaks to that urge, right? Like that for an artist, the idea that there was no more of that
Mm.
I think would be it's a fear of mine. I
Mm.
actually have active fears about this. At 44, I think what happens if at 65 if I run out of these things? I don't know what would happen.
Wow. Yeah, that's
So did
Powerful.
I just like kill the
Never
vibe?
heard that
Did
before.
I?
We're
I did.
making
I
It
killed
the.
the
is like
vibe.
that.
No, you didn't. We're
Sorry.
we're soaking it in.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, at the end, it is this, no? Like friendship,
Mm.
talking with other people that shares the same path as you, and kind of trying to discover what they do. Like honestly, when I have the chance to ask question to other people and kind of listen to the answers, a lot of people thinks in the same exactly in the same way. The best time is when you can stay together with others, and you share this kind of imagination of the future, and or you just don't know what is going to be, but it's this spirit of challenge and adventure, and that you kind of try something that
Yeah.
i- is not obviously something that will bring you probably somewhere, but you try anyway. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that is an emotion that cannot be compared with anything that has like it's not like the money cannot give you that, the
Mm.
success in terms of how popular you are cannot give you that. I think
Hmm.
through friendship and sharing unknown stuff is quite a lot.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
why I want to be surrounded by more artists. I feel like, I mean, I have my Ben Fesky, which is my best friend, nearby, and I have, of course, other people coming, but I would like to have more. I just want to, and I think that is also nice when you can do something together with other people. For example, with this performance, I asked my best friend that they are not artists at all to participate with their ideas, with what
Hmm.
we're, with their sensibilities. And what came out, it was like a collective, uh, you know, scenography or ideas. And it was beautiful because at that point you allowed also other people to be part of it. So I've always dreamt to do something more collective and not just like
Yeah.
me doing something. I
Yeah.
feel like I'm a social beast. I feel I die if I'm in the studio alone all the time.
Yeah.
So I need other people. And I realized that more after I left the Florence Academy, because at
Hmm.
the Florence Academy you have your students. It's not, but then when you're out, I think that for me, having the chance to cooperate with other people, even if they're not artists, but and bring out their creativity is the best. Is totally the best. And of course, there will be one professional person in the performance, which will play the drum. So at least one, it would be good.
Yeah. Yeah. Always the drummer has to be a pro. If we lose that, then it's all lost.
I'm learning. I'm learning. Just give me time.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so I don't know, Michael. For
Yes,
me, I think we are almost to the 2 hour mark, but I
yeah,
feel maybe we have landed in a good space.
absolutely, yeah, yeah. Thank you, Daniela, so much.
Yeah.
No,
Listen.
thank you guys. It was a nice philosophical talk. Thank you. Thank you for not asking me about too much about the Florence Academy. That always is the case in these interviews. But thank you for that. And I said about it. So, but
Yeah.
thank you for keeping this interview more personal and philosophical oriented. So, you guys both you are interesting people, and like, of course, amazing artist, but thank you so much for giving me this space.
Mm.
And also
Yeah, it's
these
our
beautiful
pleasure.
portraits too. Grazie, grazie,
Thank you. Thank
bellissimi.
you.
Daniela. Hey, listen, no, but really, thank you so much for hanging out with us and letting us make your portrait and stuff. And obviously, it's a huge fucking pleasure. And I even, by the way, I'll tell you right now, I do not use this word, but very much an honor for you to spend the time with us and share your ideas. So thank you. Yeah.
Grazie, ragazzi.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Stay well.
All right.
ciao.
Everyone, hi.
That's all the show that we have for you today. On behalf of myself and Michael Klein, I want to say thank you so much for spending time with us here at Idio Podcast. And of course, a massive shout out and thank you to Daniella for coming on the show, for subjecting herself to being drawn and painted by Michael and I. I want to also say that if you like the show, please remember to like this video and subscribe to our channel so you get updated every time we drop a new episode. So yeah, that's it. I'll see you in the next episode. Cheers.